Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. I, of course, am here with your daily mortgage market update, the only place on the web where we get together and talk about what's going on with mortgage rates and pricing each and every weekday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Today, we're going to be talking about Trump's pick for the Fed governor. We're going to talk about if this rate rally is over and where rates may be headed next. So, not a lot of unique stuff to talk about, but kind of the usual. So remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're here this morning, say good morning. Mallory Fotiada is the first to say hello. Good morning, Ms. Mallory. How's your cold plunging going? I'll tell you, it is 65 degrees and cloudy here in the mountains. Y'all, I have not seen the sun in days. I'm not exaggerating. I'll flip the camera around and show you what's going on here, but man, it is gross. So I can't imagine cold plunging in this. I feel like I could never go warm. Anyway, remember, you can join me live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're watching on the replay, go ahead and give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. If you're on Facebook, don't forget to smash that like button. Maybe tag an originator friend, or even use that share button. Share the post in a group. You know, some of those mortgage groups that are out there. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Remember, your comments are the lifeblood of the show. It's what makes me go. It helps us grow, and that's what you know. So I do love to hear from you. If you would like a reminder that I'm going live each day, you can sign up for a quick text reminder. We send out a text message each morning, and we don't sell your info or do anything nefarious. hmmr.io/reminder, or use this cool QR code, and I'll fire that off for you. If you'd like to sign up for our emails, it's www.ratelockadvice.com. We send out an email each morning. You can use that any way you see fit, as well as just keep yourself posted. You can also sign up for our text alerts. We do an alert. You can find out more at ratetextalerts.com. So, all right, my friends, well, let's get to the good stuff here and see what we got. Let's go ahead and say hi to the live folks who we got here this morning. Bill Stevens, Kenny Rivard, Jerry Avila. Good morning, all. Kamazikas, Almir Krivdik. Good morning, sir. Michael Love, Randy Tickle. You missed me yesterday, and I missed you too, my friend. But glad to see you here today, sir, for sure, for sure. Giddy up. Angela Walters, Rob Stewart, Desiree Brashears, good morning. Holly Johnson, great to see you. Candido Diaz, good morning, sir. Rob Wilson, Rob Stewart, Brandy Brickler, great to see all of you. Mike Tebow as well. So Chris Dickerson sneaking in before I move over to the other stuff. So Brian Paul too. Good morning, y'all. Great to see you. All right, let's go ahead and let's get to the good stuff here. Let's jump over to mortgage bonds and mortgage-backed securities and take a look and see what we've got going on and where we were at. So quick recap of what happened yesterday. I'll zoom in a little bit here. Let me refresh this so it goes where it's supposed to go. All right. So taking a look here, you can see that. Why is Presentify not doing its thing here? Hold on. Let me reload it. Oops. Presentify. There we go. Okay. So let's take a look here. Yesterday, everything in front of this dotted line that you see, everything on this side of it to the left of it, that is all yesterday. So taking a look here, pricing came out right about here. You could see that we ended the day up here. That gives us a happy green line where things improved, and that gives us a happy green face, because that means that we've got better pricing and better everything. So, however, most lenders didn't reprice better yesterday. I don't think I even saw a single one. So you're not really seeing that. Now, this morning, we have the opposite. We have a little bit of a loss this morning. You can see that here. See how this was down? So we opened the morning here rather than up here. Okay, that's a frowny face. We don't like that. However, if you take a look, it does put us right about in line with where we were when pricing came out yesterday. At this moment, we're just a hair below that. If you see that line right here, we're a hair below. Look, it's getting rid of my. Oh, it's doing weird things. Let's try that again. Here we go. And here we go. Okay. So if you take a look, we're just a hair below that where we were yesterday. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. It really shouldn't affect us. So mortgage bonds, though, are down 12 basis points on the day. The 5.5 coupon still above 100, which is a big deal. When we take a look here at the Japanese candlestick chart over in this side over here, let's take a look and see what all of that has to say. So when we take a look here, you'll see that back in April, like for like one day, we were up this high. Back in March, we were over here, right? And if we draw a line straight across, look at that. And that's kind of how the technicals work. Sometimes we just draw these funny lines. Now, I think that this points to a position where this rally could have kind of lost its legs when we're looking at the technicals. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. Let's see if it'll let me. No, I have to turn off Presentify to do that. So bear with me a minute. Let's do this and shrink that down. Okay, so taking a look here at the Japanese candlesticks, it's not the end all do all, but it definitely, the technicals are going to play a role. Let me just get rid of this. Technicals are going to play a role, and especially on a week like this where we lack any other economic data. Now, remember, there is some ISM data coming out this morning at 10 a.m. It could see, either a little bit of improvement or a little bit of weakening. Let's kind of talk about that. So first things first, reprice risk on the day is low. It's not likely that we're going to see bonds lose much more ground than where they're at right now. Right now we're down, 12, 13 basis points. It's not likely that we see a big sell-off today. That's going to put lenders in a position to reprice worse. Most pricing should be pretty consistent with where we saw yesterday. Taking a look at Mortgage News Daily, using that as a reference point, it certainly is nothing to sneeze at. Some of the best rate sheets that we've seen in over a month, and that we always talk about, there's that pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered kind of a thing. So you don't want to be you don't want to get too fat on this. We've seen rates generally are almost a quarter point better in rate than where we were at some of the high points. So you're looking at about a quarter point better rate, and that's nothing to sneeze at. So it does put us in a position where I might consider locking loans closing near term now that we're seeing signs of a reversal. We can start the day floating, right? So let me put this on here for the lock advice. So start the day floating. If no improvement, consider locking near term and risk averse. Now, I kind of always say that, and let me talk about what that means. So my lock advice, it's right here below. We're going to start the day floating. Right now, we're down about 12 basis points. By the way, the 10-year Treasury yield, 4.22. We'll come back to that one, but we're down about 12 basis points. If we go lower than this, then we absolutely want to consider locking. If we end the day and we're right around the same level, I would consider locking anything closing in the next couple of weeks. Today's August 5th. So you're talking about loans closing, 18th, 19th, anything before that. I would take the money and run. We've seen a huge reaction. Look at how this rally happened. We saw a huge reaction in this one day based on Friday's jobs data. One reaction. And again, I feel that was mostly caused by the revisions to the previous 2 months, going from the 100 and change mark down into the teens, right, for new jobs created. And we saw some confirmation on Monday, which was exciting because I was fully expecting to see some pullback on Monday. And now today we're starting to see that pullback. When we look at the technicals and we go, let me put this full screen for you. Here we go. Put that there. Let's put this full screen again. Okay. When you look at the technicals and we take a look at this line, if we draw this line right there, well, look at that. Looky, right? So we've seen that, hey, we are right here kind of testing that level. We did break above it here at the end of March into April, but only for a day. And then it dropped back below, right? And then when it dropped tremendously. I'd have to look and see why we lost so much ground in March, why it just went down, 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 down. I'm not worried of history repeating itself here, but I do think that without any economic data, this is a chance that we may not see things improve when we're looking at the technicals, right? And because of this, we want to be quick to go ahead and lock those loans up. That makes sense. Now, that's what I mean by risk averse, right? When I say risk averse, let's say you've got a loan that's closing 45 days out. You got a new contract. If you lock that loan now, you're generally not getting your best rate sheet pricing because of the lock window. And you have to, what happens if rates move lower between now and 45 days? It's a long time. Now, I know some of you have float down options, but even with float down options, they're not the best options. You've got to see a significant movement lower, and you're generally not going to get even the best pricing if that does happen. Some of you are brokers and you'll talk about yanking loans and putting them somewhere else. And I know that you think that that's best for your consumer, and sometimes it's necessary, but you can't just do that on a whim because your lock pull through, you guys have to be very aware of your lock pull through, because if you lock a loan with a lender, they're counting on that loan. They have to now deliver on that loan. And if you don't come through on your locks, you're going to get worse pricing or get your contract with that lender just, they're going to stop doing business with you. I don't think it's a good way to do business, even as a broker. I don't think you should be playing that game with your lenders. You're a partner with them. You can't abuse them. So that said, when I say risk averse, if it's closing in August. Now, here's the thing. Next week, we've got the CPI inflation data. We're going to have, of course, the producer price index, PPI, as well, but it's that CPI inflation data. It's coming out on the 12th. It's a week from today. Yes, it's a week from today. And that data is going to be key. Now, the tariffs, and I know Ron and I have gone back and forth on this, but the tariffs have definitely hit, and I'll answer your questions in a minute. The Nathan, you don't have to feel sorry for the bank, but it's not a matter of sorry. It's a matter of a business relationship. So, you've committed to locking a loan with them and delivering a loan, and then you don't do it. So it's not that I feel sorry for them, but that's, if you do that too often, they're gonna, it's you generally in the contract, even, they'll just stop doing business with you. So, but anyway, the focus here, as we take a look at that CPI inflation data, tariffs have absolutely hit markets. They have absolutely hit companies, and they're generally, right now, it shows you how fat the profit margin is on a lot of these companies. They're absorbing a lot of the hit. But I want to show you guys something. I don't know if it's going to come up on my photos or if I'll have to show it to you. Just hold it up to you. Oh no, here it is. Okay, good. So let me show you. Here is the bill I got for propane that was delivered yesterday. And you've got to love some of these little things like the safety P&T fee. P&T is personnel and training fee. So I'm paying a fee because they're training their employees, right? And let me see if I can make this. Can I make it? Yeah, I'll make it a little smaller so that you can see the fees. Okay, so we've got a safety fee. I'm paying a transportation fee. They're sneaky companies in how they extract more money from us and how they go about doing that. And then, of course, I get to pay. Let's pay more tax. I pay a municipal tax. I pay sales tax. You got to pay some more tax. I mean, after all, why would I possibly get something without paying the government for just doing nothing? But they need to get paid on that too. And it's funny because my bill goes from $350 to $400, between these additional fees, the extra tax, and boom. So my point here is that the tariffs absolutely are hitting into companies, which means they're going to find their way to consumers. And that's why the Fed members have continued to hold back and don't want to make their rate cuts. Now, as far as market probabilities, right now markets are at a 90% expectation that we're going to see a rate cut in September. That is a huge, huge turnaround. If that were to start to falter, you'll see mortgage rates to creep a little bit higher. I don't think we have to worry about that. Here's the surprising part, though. They're also looking for a cut in October. This would be the one cut in September. This is a cut in October. There's a 60%, more than half, 60% expectation that the Fed will cut in September, will cut in October, and then as we get to December, there's an expectation. Here's that single cut, here's a double cut, here is a third time's a charm cut. Markets are overly optimistic on Fed rate cuts. This could come to fruition, but again, we're already into August. We're in the second half of the year. So there's a lot of articles that talk about things like this where I'm looking for a particular one that I had where it talked about that most of the money was, that the growth we've seen is because, sorry, I'm not finding it. But the growth that we've seen was because of preparing for, and that we're going to see lower growth this quarter. So that's a lot of the concern. Let's go ahead and see what you guys are chatting about and talking about. Randy Teagle said, did revisions of revisions have the same staying power as the original data? Normally, no. But in this case, yes, because of how crazy it was. And then as we saw, Trump did go ahead and fire the head of the BLS. But it's funny what Trump wants and what he wants and why he wants it. I don't think, jive. We've talked about that already. The supposedly he's frustrated that their data came in showing weak labor, but yet that's the only thing that's going to get him the rate cuts that he wants. Julie said, I tell clients I can do that, but never do it unless the lender doesn't do income correctly or something else similar. Yeah, and that's a totally different scenario. Randy said, manufacturing companies are also resizing packaging. Yeah, I talked about that yesterday to keep pricing the same. Watch for package sizes to shrink. We've seen that before on like candy bars. We've seen that on chips. It's funny. A pound of bacon isn't a pound of bacon anymore. So yeah, Randy, you're absolutely correct. They're going to do all the little tricks that they can to try to recover money because they are all for profit and it's what they do. So we definitely will keep all of that in mind. Nope, that's not what I want. I wanted this one. So as far as lock advice goes. All right, so let's wrap up with a couple of these other items. Tariffs here or outlook here, takeaways here. The outlook for Wall Street bonuses is improving. Got to feel good about that because what if the Wall Street people didn't make all of this extra money? Come on, that's important. No, that's not really what I was. Trump says Bessent doesn't want to be nominated as Fed chair. I'm actually excited about that one, even though I think Bessent would do pretty well as the Fed chair. I think he does amazing as Treasury Secretary, and in his position there, I think he'd be in a no-win position if he was pushed over to the Fed side, because I think he is smarter and more business savvy with this stuff than Trump is, and he knows that we can't just drive the Fed funds rate down 3%. Whereas that's what Trump has called for and wants to see happen. So I think that this is a solid idea here. As far as this was also an interesting article. Trump's Fed pick likely to find colleagues cautious on rate cuts. And I've kind of mentioned this before. Powell gets he's like the quarterback of the team. He gets all the blame. He gets all the credit. And it is a Federal Open Market Committee. And in fact, the last vote in a week ago, when time flies, maybe 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. No, it was just a week ago, a little more than a week ago. The 2 dissenting votes in that committee, but it's still, guess what? It's majority. It doesn't have to be unanimous. So, I think even if Trump does get somebody in there, they're going to have a really hard time rallying a lot of these hawkish members to start wanting to cut rates. And those hawkish members are not getting the abuse from Trump on social that the Fed chair gets, like Powell gets. So this is it's kind of an interesting thing here. Even if the new chair agrees with Trump that borrowing costs should be much lower, changing them will require a majority on the central bank's open market committee. Former Fed officials and staffers say that means arguments must be based on the economy, not on politics. And I think that that's what will happen. But I do think that we're going to see a slowdown in the economy in the second half of the year. The tariffs are hitting, and I also think that like what we've seen in this article is kind of the big thing. Earning more but in worse shape hardship overwhelms many American families. I know you guys are seeing it. I'm seeing it. People are tapped, and I think that this is going to, really start to show itself. There's money. There's the haves and the have-nots, but this is definitely a big part of it. So, look at this. Meisler earns $37,500 working a nonprofit that connects new mothers with services, owns her home, a small house with blue siding in Binghamton. Is this Binghamton, New York? I must be Binghamton. Yeah, Binghamton, New York. So Binghamton is a bigger city right outside of Deposit, New York, which is where my brother graduated high school and where my mother lived, and it is in upstate New York. And we bought a house there for $35,000. So that's like today, these houses are probably $135,000. And but how $37,500? This was an income 25 years ago. How is that still a full-time income in any? Now you could argue it's a nonprofit and it's their budget, but how does, and then she's got how many kids? She's got 3 kids. You have to wonder what kind of subsidy they're getting to be able to afford, and what Medicare, what medical insurance and medical stuff are. Credit cards are maxed out. She's behind on her bills. Yeah, that's the thing. So I think there's a lot of that. My bottom line here is I think this is going to slow down the economy. I think people are going to be spending less. And I think that we're going to see a position where rates will go ahead and kind of improve a little bit as we go through the second part of the year. But similar to where they're at now, maybe a little bit better, not much. I think we're at that low side. So again, I think we could see this rally reversing is where I was going with all that. Even for the short term, next week's CPI inflation data going to be the big thing. If that data doesn't show that companies are passing along these costs to consumers, which I think is probably, I think it's just a little bit. I don't think that the inflation is going to come in super high, and I think that gives us a little bit of some extra legs on the rally for loans that have more time. So, Randy says, when's the next refi boom? I get asked all the time by past clients who keep getting spam mail telling them it's on now. The refi boom is whenever, I don't know that it's going to be a boom. I think we're seeing more of you're going to see a more consistent refi environment. And I think a lot of the refis are going to be cash out refis using equity to free up cash flow and pay off higher interest and higher payment debts. I think paying off car loans and paying off credit cards, the home equity is still there. We're not in 2007. A lot of this equity is not false equity. We may see a correction in some markets. Like Randy, you're down in Texas, and Texas may see some correction where prices, roll back 10%. You may have some markets where it's more than that, and like say Austin. But overall, I don't think you're going to see, by me, prices aren't going backwards at all. So, and in New Jersey, there's still bidding wars, and I talk about these places because I'm familiar with them. The spam mail's telling them now, not you. No, I know that. I get that. But my point is that I think that, refinance, I don't think it's going to be a boom. I think refinancing is going to be more of a consistent thing. And it's when it makes sense for the consumers. And I think that for a lot of them, it makes sense now. Also, rates that if we're looking at 6.5 for conventional, you're looking at Govy stuff that's around 6. So if you're looking at VA rates that are around 6, a lot of people had VA rates in the 7s, and why not do an IRRRL? And especially if you can do something where you minimize any expense to the veteran, and in 6 months, 210 days is going to go by like that, right? So for them, they need 7 months. It's going to go by just like that, and they may end up doing an IRRRL again later. But if not, and rates aren't moving, why not save that money now? So I think there's that you should be looking for refis now. I don't think we're going to see a refi boom. Brandy said we're definitely seeing a correction. Brandy, you're also in Texas, so you guys are seeing it there. Desiree, we're still seeing some bidding wars in Washington State as well. Yeah, it's very much. I think part of the Texas thing was because of California and people moving out of California, and that slowed down. Manufacturing company. Oh, that was old. Oh, okay. So that's it, y'all. Well, have a fantastic one. It's 10 a.m. Let's get to work. The fake mailers, yeah, well, that's always an issue. It's been an issue since even when I wrote loans 30 years, 25 years ago. Let me not exaggerate. Wow, I feel old. What the hell? When did I get old? So anyway, the fake mailers, the fake ads, you just gotta work through that and fight through that. So the veteran at 6.25 now is being told now is the time to drop rates. More reason than ever to stay in touch with your clients and remind them, that if they get solicitations to reach out to you and you'll tell them the real story, because yeah, sure, they can drop a rate, but it's going to cost them 3 points, right? Or Brandy said, I've done several refinances for folks that made sense, but had obedience appraisal come in low. That's tough. New Jersey, definitely still multiple offers, but homes seem to be sitting longer. Yeah, it's certain homes too, and it depends on what demographic they are. So it's definitely there. All right, my friends. Well, I again appreciate you. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make it a fantastic day. Bye-bye.